Last days in Medina, my good student Anas. Sadly, the Prophet's health, may peace be upon him, had started to deteriorate. We will remember how Jibreel, may peace be upon him, made him recite the Quran twice, instead of once, in that Ramzan. I will narrate to you, how, in spite of adverse health, he continued to warn against evil, and tried his best to fulfill all his obligations. We will remember how he asked his Omar to hold on to the Quran and Hadith, and how Abu Bakr led the prayer, as instructed, during his last days. We will remember Anas, how, when he passed away, all companions were deeply grieved, but they continued to hold on to the religion of one God, even when he was not present among them.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
A mission near completion. At Mina, Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, performed Duha, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha prayers at Attar. He sent Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, accompanied by her brother, Abdul Rahman bin Abi Bakr, to complete her Umrah.
Radiyallahu anhum ajma'een.
Aisha came back after her Umrah, and the Prophet of Allah, may peace be upon him, went back with her, and performed a final circumambulation, around the Kaaba. They offered Fajr prayer, and left for Madinah. On reaching Madinah, Muhammad, peace be upon him, knew his mission was nearing completion. Poison from meat he had consumed, caused his health to deteriorate. During the last 10 days of Ramzan of his last year, Jibreel, may peace be upon him, asked him to recite the Quran twice, instead of once.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
He informed Fatima of his imminent death.
Radiyallahu anha.
The Prophet's health deteriorates. It was the beginning of Safar, 11 years after Hijrah. The Prophet of Allah, may peace be upon him, went to Mount Uhud, and prayed for the martyrs there. He returned and warned his people, as he feared that they would compete for worldly benefits.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The Prophet's health deteriorated even more. He wanted to go to Aisha. Ali bin Abu Talib, and Fadl bin Abbas supported him.
Radiyallahu anhum ajma'een.
He asked Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, to pour 7 water skins, and he led his people in prayer. He forbade them from worshipping graves, or turning his grave into an idol, and worshipping it.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
He asked the people if he owed anyone anything, as he wanted to repay all debts. The Prophet leaves 2 things. Then he said that when Allah, His Majesty, gave one of slaves a choice, between the treasures of this world, and what Allah, His Majesty, had, the slave chose what was with Allah. Abu Bakr understood who the slave was, and burst into tears.
Radiyallahu anhu.
The Prophet's regard for Abu Bakr increased even more, and he instructed that all doors that opened into the mosque be closed, except the door that opened from the house of Abu Bakr. His health worsened. In spite of the pain and suffering, he wrote something for those he was about to leave behind. I leave with you 2 things. As long as you hold them tightly, you will never go astray. They are the Book of Allah, His Majesty, and my Sunnah.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Abu Bakr leads the prayer, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet did not recover from the pain and illness, but continued to lead the prayer. One day, before Isha prayer, he took a bath to lessen the pain, but fell unconscious. He regained consciousness, bathed again, but fell unconscious. He bathed and fell unconscious a 3rd time. He summoned Abu Bakr to lead the prayer. Abu Bakr continued to lead the prayers.
Radiyallahu anhu.
When the Prophet felt a little better, he went to the mosque to perform the prayer. He disposed all his worldly possessions.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
One day, when Abu Bakr was leading the prayer, the Prophet of Allah, peace be upon him, lifted the curtain of Aisha's house and looked at the people praying. The people praying almost interrupted their prayer out of happiness, but the Prophet motioned them to continue.
sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The Prophet's time draws near, may peace be upon him. The Prophet called his daughter Fatima, may Allah be pleased with her, and told her he would not recover. She felt sad. Then he said that she would join her next, which made her smile. He called his grandsons, Hassan and Hussein, and kissed them. He counseled his wives. His pain increased, and he covered his face with a sheet. He remained with Aisha, and she gave him the traditional toothstick to chew, the mswak.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
He had a bowl of water near him, and he dipped his hands in the water and wiped his face. He knew his death was very close. He became unconscious and then regained consciousness, looked at the ceiling and said, "O Allah, with the highest companions."
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The world plunges into grief. The companions were shaken at the news of his failing health. It was the third Islamic month, the month of his birth. Omar was shocked. He threatened to kill anyone who claimed that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was gone. Omar believed that he would not go until the hypocrites were destroyed. That day, when Abu Bakr reached home, he learned that the Prophet of Allah, peace be upon him, had passed away. He mounted his horse and rode to the Prophet's mosque. He went in his house, uncovered his face, kissed him, and wept for the great loss.
Radiyallahu anhu.
He went to the mosque and advised people that Muhammad should not be worshipped, as he has passed away. He said Allah, His Majesty, has to be worshipped, who is alive and will never die. Then he recited a verse from Surah Al-Imran. Omar heard the verse and finally accepted the sad news.
Radiyallahu anhu.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتلا انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
I seek refuge from Shaitan, the accursed. Muhammad is not but a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him. So if he was to die or be killed, would you turn back on your heels, to unbelief? And he who turns back on his heels will never harm Allah at all, but Allah will reward the grateful. Surah Al-Imran, the third chapter of the Holy Quran, verse 144, recited by Sheikh Menshawi, translation by Sahih International.